Welcome to Real Talk Sports Edition with Brian Poduska, where you will get sports talk and sports opinions hotter than a Texas summer.
Are you ready?
All right, what is up, everybody? You are watching Real Talk with Brian Poduska, Sports Edition. This is episode 2. So if you're watching for the first time, you're an early adopter. I appreciate you guys watching. The first episode that we had some heavy hitters from some big-time high school football programs across the country, I can say now officially. And we're going to continue along those lines today with a heavy hitter here in Texas, in the state of Texas. So for those of you who have seen the show in the past, we had a business-focused discussion. Real talk on business topics. We had a rotating business topic of the month. We have shifted a bit. We still may sprinkle in a business show every once in a while, but we have shifted a bit to focus the discussion on sports because, we're here in the great state of Texas, and what's bigger than the topic of sports here. So that is what we are doing. We're taking a little bit different angle at it. We're trying to get hit on all different facets. So high school, college, pro, and we're going to go across all different sports. So we're not just going to focus on football. We're happening to do that up front here because we're kicking off the football season. But that being said, we're trying to look at not necessarily what's going on the field. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're also going to get a little bit deeper, shine some spotlights on local coaches, what they're doing on and off the field, more importantly, in the community, off the field, things that make the difference. Notice the plug that I have there. Things that make the difference in the communities in which we operate. So that's what the new format is. If you haven't seen us on the new format, that is it. Lendon, why don't we bring you on screen since we're kind of co-hosting this gig together? How you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing good. It's football season, so it's even better.
What's not to like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, as we got through show number 1 with some real big heavy hitters, in 2 different states, right? Right here in the DFW area with the Allen football program, and then we had the head coach of the St. John Bosco Braves, number 1 ranked team in the country. So they both joined us for some really, I thought, in-depth, great discussion that we had in week 1.
Yeah. It was really good, and we got to interview them both, and I'm pretty familiar with Texas high school football. Didn't know that much about California, but there are some distinct differences in how California does their high school regulations versus Texas, and that's going to be one of them's being the NIL, right? High school players, being involved in the NIL program. That's going to be a topic of discussion, I guess, probably all year. We're hoping to have Coach Negro back on when they play Mater Dei coming up in a few weeks. And so definitely don't want to ruffle too many feathers, but it's a different world for them than it is for Texas teams and Texas coaches. And, whether you like one or the other, it's just the truth.
No doubt about it. And it's going to be fun watching those guys throughout the year. They've got a big one coming up in not this weekend, but the following week against the previously mentioned Mater Dei. So, that'll be a good one to see. And I wouldn't mind hitting up our guest today to find out what his thoughts are on the NIL at the high school level. Because, like you said, I think it's definitely going to be an ongoing topic. Certainly here in Texas, it's not allowed at the high school level currently. So we'll see where it goes in the future. But I'm always interested to hear the coaches' opinions on it as well. So maybe we can hit that with our guest today. So with that being said, I know he's on backstage. Do you want to throw a little teaser out there?
Yeah, and we want to get him on. We want to respect his time. Obviously, he's got to be out there on the field with his team here pretty soon. So just real quick, I actually coached against him when he was in high school. That's how old I am. And then was fortunate enough to meet him a couple of different times. One of the guys that we coached that was on our team, they also knew each other. And so I was able to meet this gentleman. And was very intrigued when I saw what he's doing now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at one of the teams, just the growth and the dynamic about it. And I really appreciate him. Number one, remembering me because, I'm easily forgettable, but agreeing to come on at last minute. And so I want to bring him on. It's Coach Novikov with the Parish Episcopal Panthers. Welcome, Coach.
How we doing, guys? Appreciate you having me on.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
joining
Thank you
us,
very
Coach.
much. So we want to respect your time. I know you don't have a lot of it. You got a lot of responsibilities and games coming up this weekend. You want to, be ready for. Coach, tell us a little bit about your journey to get to Parish. I mean, I've read it in your bio. Of course, I understand. I knew it. You played at St. Mark's, right?
Yep.
Went to Notre Dame.
Yep.
Now, were you a tight end at Notre Dame, or what
I was
position?
a quarterback, actually, believe it or not. I don't look like one now, but I was a quarterback many moons ago.
Right. Well, I could have been a defensive lineman now, but not back in those days. So quarterback, and then you come back, and I know that I think you coached at Bishop Lynch for a while.
Yep.
So tell us just a little bit about your journey. How you landed at Parish.
So, kind of by accident. I never intended to be a coach. My family had a family business, so I always probably figured I would work for that. And they ended up selling it in like 2005, right when I got out of college. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I knew civilian life, as I call it, wasn't the life for me, going and sitting at a desk and, doing credits and debits and accounting or being a lawyer or something like that. I knew probably wouldn't fit. I wanted to stay around the game, and I really didn't know what else to do. So I just got into coaching at Bishop Lynch was my first opportunity, and then I've loved it ever since. So I've just kind of been stuck in it since then. But I didn't set out when I was playing high school or college football to be a coach. I thought I majored in business, so I thought I'd go be a businessman and make a bunch of money, but that wasn't in the plan. So I kept coaching.
Well, coaching, and that's one thing I didn't realize when I got into it that first year too. It kind of traps you. Once you get into it, the relationships you develop with your players, with the coaches, it's hard to leave. And what was going to be 1 to 2 years for me turned into 14.
Right.
So tell us a little bit. You're now at Parish. I remember the first year that we played Parish, and just watching the growth. It's been phenomenal what Parish has done, for the school, for the kids that go there. Talk a little bit about, since you've been there, and was it 2011 when you got there?
I got here in 2011. We were TAPS 4A, which is the division below us now. They've since changed it to 6A, 5A, but the growth has been incredible. And again, it's not something anybody at the school set out to do. I think it's kind of been a unique journey because this is a $30,000 a year private school. That's a very high academic school. So, basically I took over the job the second year we went 6A, and kind of a lot of things happened that all fell into place. Preston Stone decided to come here as a ninth grader. And that's what I would say is really the catalyst for how we've ended up getting to where we got. And, having a generational talent like that really put us on the map. And so then, the program just kind of grew with him every year. More and more kids wanted to come play with them. We kept getting better and better. And then, we ended up winning 2 state titles with him. And then, last year, everybody would have said, including me, there's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding year. We had another phenom quarterback come in, and Sawyer Anderson was a freshman. Andrew Paul, who's at Georgia as a running back, kind of burst on the scene as a running back that nobody would have predicted that. And we had probably our most dominant season since I've been here. And so then what it does, it's kind of the chicken or the egg question. Your scheduling ends up becoming you can't schedule people other than teams like Aledo or stuff, or South Oak Cliff or people like that. So then you end up having to play in that category, and then you end up having to compete in that category, and you're either going to rise to the occasion or you're not. So that's kind of where we are now. But that's kind of how we've gotten here, I would say, kind of in a short-winded version of how this all ended up happening.
Well, it's really good to see. Obviously, you guys played Aledo last week and came out of that one a winner. Aledo is known pretty much as perennial powerhouse, and you guys were able to go take them out. How does that set you up? And I know some of these questions, Coach, that I'm going to ask, it almost I cringe when I ask them because I know how coaches
Great.
I know how coaches feel about them.
Yeah.
And now I look at the like Jason Witten that went into broadcasting, and you kind of start to understand probably the discomfort they went through when you've got to be on the other side of that.
Yeah.
How does that help? How does that win help you moving forward? Is it a confidence builder? I mean, when you've done as well as y'all have, there's usually not a lack of confidence because that's part of the culture. But does it help? Does it matter at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason we scheduled Alito was to try to see how we match up with teams like that. That's kind of always the age-old question, or at least, always the snickering I would hear was, yeah, but they don't play anybody. They play in taps. They play in taps. Who do they play? So, one of the things when I made the schedule this year, one of the things I took into consideration was, okay, let's see. Let's go play some of these teams and see what happens. I mean, it could backfire and still could ultimately backfire on us because you play a team like Alito, you're going to lose one or two kids, and then that keeps happening every week. And depth, as you know, is certainly an issue in TAPS football, so it may hurt you towards the back end of the season. But, I think this was kind of the next step we had to try to take as a program if we want to reach, keep reaching for the elite levels to play teams like that so that, we can answer the question of, who do they play and how would they do against the perennial powers that everybody knows and respects. I think especially people that don't understand private school football, they don't put a whole lot of respect on TAP state championships. And so that's kind of been our mantra this year and wanted to play and earn some credibility and earn some respect for the level of football we play. I think, TAP's football teams are way better than anybody gives them credit for. And so that's, what we're trying to set out to do. How that goes, who knows, but that's what we're trying to do.
Well, and I think that's one, when you look at it and what I took away from the head coach that I coached under, him well. It is about injuries, right? You don't have the depth that a lot of those public schools have. And so talent across the board of the first 11 on both sides of the ball, you can probably be pretty equal. But when you start subbing, sometimes you can tell a difference. And if you get somebody hurt, everybody's playing to win the state championship. So I always wished that more TAP schools would step out and take on those challenges of the public schools because I thought that it would help the reputation. So I can appreciate you doing that, Coach, because it's a David versus Goliath sometimes. It really is.
Yep, for sure.
I'm looking at the rankings right now, and I know a lot of coaches, yourself included, don't necessarily want to follow the rankings, but I do have to say it's impressive. You guys on Max Preps are ranked number 9 in the state within Texas, and that includes all schools. So that's pretty impressive for the TAP school to be recognized at number 9.
It really is. My last year of coaching, and I don't want to go back too far, but I thought at that time, based on what Max Preps was saying, that we had really had one of the best runs of any private school in Texas. And when we came out where we were ranked on Max Preps, everybody was pretty proud of that. But it was 40th, and that was at the end of the year after we had won the state championship. And to be able to see you guys up in the top 10, Coach, is just that to me. It's just really cool because I'm like you. I believe in TAPS football. I think that it's a lot better than people give it credit for, and for people to start recognizing that now, it's just I really feel good about it. So again, that's something great. We're running in. Let me see. We're about 15 minutes in. I promised you 15 or so. If there's anything else you want to share about your school, and before we dismiss you here and let you go and do your thing, one of the big games, Brian and I have been looking around trying to kind of get a little bit of college vibe going in our shows too. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of big games this week. You got Arkansas and Cincinnati. I'm a Razorback fan. You got Oregon and Georgia, and then you got Ohio State and Notre Dame. So right. Give us your prediction on Ohio State and Notre Dame. How's that going to go?
Well, I'll tell you this. I had the opportunity to meet Marcus Freeman. He came through here to recruit our tailback, and I was thoroughly impressed with him. I can see why he got the job. Now, what that means 6 months into it, and he hadn't even had a full year at the helm. I mean, I think playing Ohio State is a tall order for them. So, unfortunately, I think the Buckeyes are going to get the better of them. But I think Notre Dame's going to have a pretty good run with him at the helm because, I mean, you can see why kids like him and why kids want to go play for him and why he's got a top recruiting class.
Yep. Does having played there, because I know that when I was at DC, we didn't get a lot of the bigger northern schools coming down here recruiting. Has that changed a lot over the last few years?
Yeah, it's national now. I mean, I think, the big time ones, they'll recruit anywhere. Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, those schools, they'll go anywhere and recruit.
So if you got a good kid, they're going to find him, right?
Yep, that is the truth.
Well, Coach, if there's anything, I'm going to give you the last word, and then we'll go to commercial break. But if there's anything you want to say about your team, about your upcoming game, we would love to have you back on it sometime and talk about that NIL deal that's going on in California. And then, we want to get some coaches, and not to put anybody on the spot, but we would like to talk about what's happening in high school football across the nation, and is that going to impact and infiltrate Texas at some point? But
yeah, I think it absolutely is. But I'll save that for another time. But I think you're going to see the NIL drop down to high school football pretty soon.
Okay. All right. Well, Coach, we appreciate it. We're going to cut to commercial break now, and good luck tomorrow night, and hope to see you again. By the way, before you do, that one of your buddies, I already put that in the email, one of your buddies is playing the ODC head coach tonight. That's going to be a pretty cool matchup.
I'll give you a pick there. I'm pick at Fort Bend to beat Dallas Christian tomorrow night. There's a big pick for you.
I was telling my son earlier that may be that may be it. I don't know that Coach Black has beat Coach Wheeler yet. No, this may be the time. I didn't think so.
If there's ever a time, now the rain could be a problem, but if there's ever a time, this will be the time right here. I predict that he'll beat him this year.
Well, if you guys ever get to play them, I want to have you and Coach Black on the same time.
I tried this year. He wouldn't schedule me. He stuck me with. I messed with him after last Friday. He called me. We tried to play him this year, and instead he stuck me with South Oak Cliff. So that's what a good roommate does, right?
You're right. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to get him on here, and I'll rib him a little bit. I'll try to get him going and see if I can help.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Guys. All right. Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
The difference is made possible by the following small businesses.
Real property management focus. An unmatched level of service to property owners, investors, and tenants throughout the DFW Metroplex.
Katie Owen, the insurance gal, helps overwhelmed Medicare-eligible people successfully navigate the enrollment process. When turning 65, retiring, and signing up for Medicare for the first time, it can be confusing. So it's important to get guidance from someone you can trust. Katie helps her clients navigate the enrollment process in a way that eliminates the feeling of being overwhelmed and unsure and leaves her clients feeling relieved and confident. If you have questions about the Medicare process and want advice from someone you can trust, reach out to Katie at 972-943-3943 or at her website, www.insgal.com.
When you need a trusted roofing company on your side to help you out with storm damage repair for your roof, call Cook DFW Roofing. Serving Anna, Melissa, Princeton, Prosper, Van Alstyne, and all of the DFW area.
Red Branch Realty and owner realtor Ashley Gentry are true champions at every level. As a top producer, Ashley Gentry and Red Branch Realty truly embody their mission of being your supporter and partner in your personal real estate journey. So if finding the best representation possible in achieving the American dream of homeownership is important to you, give Ashley a call at 972-342-1869.
For more information about our sponsors and their services, or if you would like information on how you and your business can partner with or sponsor this show, or others like it, just check the show description or comments for the relevant links and contact information. And now back to the show.
Well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I mean, I still look at him like that high school player that I forgot that he did play quarterback. He absolutely did, but he was a big quarterback back then. I know he's hard to tackle.
Yeah, I just quickly looked up his stats. It looks like he was probably buried on the depth charts at Notre Dame, which it's no small accomplishment to go to Notre Dame as a quarterback.
Right.
But yeah, I think his claim to fame was a rush. So he must a rushing play. So he must have been a big dude, hard to bring down.
Yeah, but can you imagine though, what he's learned through being there and the coaching that they got up there? I mean, I don't know. Just having the background in TAPS and private school, and like he said, just the respect or the lack of respect for, because Texas football is so big, and they're like, well, yeah, but who did you play? Yeah, but who did you play? And I remember the last year that I coached, the 08 season, we went 14-0, and we're playing up in Little Elm. We're playing Liberty Christian, where Coach Jason Whitten coaches now. And he didn't coach there then, but we were playing Liberty. Liberty had beat us in the state championship the year before. And when it was over, the head coach of Little Elm walked in our locker room to congratulate us. It was a neutral site, right? And he goes, I'll be honest. He goes, I'd never really paid that much attention to private school. He goes, but y'all and the other team could have beat us. And they had a pretty decent year that year. And, you don't pay attention. Hopefully I can bring some connections I still have, some attention, and let people know that it's some pretty good football. And man, there's some in our DFW area. We have some powerhouses. We really do.
Well, yeah, and we didn't have enough time to really get deep into it, but I wanted to understand how they, similar to the conversation we had with some of these big California private schools, they've got a bigger palette to draw from, right? They've got a bigger pool to draw from across the state of California. How do some of the smaller private schools here in DFW, I mean, you can kind of recruit, but not really.
So TAPS has a rule that you cannot recruit for athletic purposes.
Okay.
Right? You can't give a kid a scholarship. You can't recruit just to have them come as a player. Does it happen? Yes. Has it happened? Absolutely.
Right.
In the early 2000s, Grace, well, I'm going to stop right there. There was a school in the area that got put on probation. Their head coach was an ex-NFL player, and they had a kid from Miami. They had a kid from they had 2 or 3 different ones. 2 of them went to the NFL. The 2 years that all that was happening, they're the only team that beat us. They beat us in the regular season because we were in district together, and they beat us in the state championship. We lost 4 games in 2 years to the same team.
Oh.
Conference, which decided conference championship, and then the state championship. And after those 2 years, they got put on probation. And I'm not sure that I think he went somewhere else and coached. Again, this may, maybe this is what this show needs. Who knows? I'm willing to back it up because I know what happened. But if TAPS catches you breaking the rules, you do get punished. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but I know that a lot of coaches out there are scared to death to actually recruit. Could they do it? Absolutely, they could do it. And I've always thought, what does it matter? If you're in a community and you can encourage a guy to come to your school and play ball. I mean, we had one that in the 2008 year, he transferred in from one of the Mesquite schools because he wasn't getting playing time there. He was a track star, and he came over to DC and ended up being one of our best receivers that year. He had speed to burn. And because no one had really paid attention to him, the only scholarship offer he got that year was at Harding, a D2 school. Well, then you had what's the Texas track meet? I can't remember what they call it, but he runs the 100 meters and beats Marquise Goodwin, who went to the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
And before he crossed the finish line, he had college coaches all over him. Well, at that point, TCU offered him a scholarship. And so he went to TCU. He was the MVP of the Poinsettia Bowl one year, and ends up playing as an undrafted free agent for Washington and Tampa Bay. And so, and that's somebody that would have completely been overlooked. No one accused us of recruiting because we didn't. He just wanted to come and play ball and get on the field, and he wasn't getting on the field there. And did they have better receivers? Maybe. Did they go pro? Don't know, but I know he did.
Well, and how many other kids that would want to do something similar can't do it because of the astronomical cost of doing something like that?
That's the other thing. I mean, Coach Novikov just mentioned the cost of going to Parrish. I mean,
right.
It's on par with a lot of colleges, and a lot of other schools around the Dallas-Fort Worth area are comparable to that, if not more. I know a couple in Fort Worth are actually more. And so, it's not what people assume that it is in the private school, because people think that, well, they're just recruiting and getting all the best players. Well, if they're getting all the best players, then why are they not getting the respect from people that know football about them just being, a TAPS team?
Yeah, well, and I guess that may be true to some degree where they get a player or maybe a couple players, but I think Coach said it. The problem is always depth. Right, you can't. Number one, you don't have the pool to draw from the number of students, and then number two, how are you going to get, if you're really recruiting? You don't have the depth, right? So
you're not recruiting, first, second, and third teamers, all the way
right.
through. And I'll say this, I mean, for the talent that we had. Most every year, Brian, our skill players would compete with anybody and probably could get playing time on any high school in Texas. Where you see the TAP schools do well, the ones that usually go all the way are the ones that are able to put together a pretty good offensive and defensive line and have a little bit of depth there. Those are usually the ones that win, because that's really the weakness of all the private schools is the line. And, we kind of saw that the writing on the wall when, we got into that 08 year, and we had a couple of seniors, had a sophomore and actually a sophomore and a freshman that were actually brothers, but they were giants and strong. One went to Cal, one went to New Mexico and played ball. So, that was, we're like, we know we have the skill players. If these guys pan out to be anything in the line, we're going to have a good shot.
So I guess that's true on any level, right? You need the horses in the trenches to.
They're the undervalued. They really are the key. They really. I mean, you can take. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm a Cowboys fan, and back in the '90s when Emmett was running, I love Emmett. He's not Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was the best runner probably ever. Walter Payton was another one that was a great runner. But when can you imagine what Walter or Barry Sanders would have done behind the offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, man. There's the ongoing joke. I think I heard it on the radio today as I was listening. Could you gain a yard in the NFL on any given play? Most people would say, I feel like I could probably gain a yard. But behind that Cowboys line in the 90s, probably get a few first downs.
I believe you could. Now, you'd get crushed by the linebackers in just a few seconds. But, I mean, my gosh, they open. And I'm not taking anything away from Emmett.
No.
Emmett was a really complete player. Not only was he a good runner, he was a great blocker. He was really smart. He could pick up, the pass protection was incredible. He kept, Aikman upright, helped him. And he was durable. In order to break Walter's record, you got to play in every game you can play in.
Yep.
And if you miss any time, that record's never going to happen. I think that's why it's been so hard for so many Eric Dickerson. You look at all those guys that had super talent and breakaway speed. I mean, that's where they got a lot of their yards. If they can get past the linebackers, it's over. Right. Emmett didn't have breakaway speed.
No.
I mean, he got caught from behind by linebackers.
Yeah. Strong runner, great line, smart player. Like you said, longevity.
Great balance and vision. But as far as overall outrun him speed, he just really didn't have that.
No, you got my mind thinking now, what would Barry Sanders do behind the Cowboys line? Or even Walter had a good offensive line for the Super Bowl years near the end of his career. But Sanders never had one, right? He was stuck in the shithole that was Detroit.
Man, he was such a loyal person too. He stuck with Detroit. Even, I mean, if it was in today's world, someone of that talent would be out of there, before he got a helmet put on his head. And he stuck with them. And for whatever reason, whether they would let him go or not, but he did some amazing things with no help.
Yeah, he was ridiculous.
Yeah,
he was the living version of a video game.
He really was. I got to see him play on a Monday night at the old Cowboys Stadium, and I, like anybody else, I played college ball and I played minor league ball, and you sit on Sundays and you're like, man, I could play. I really could play if I was just a few inches taller, blah, 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 blah. And I always watch those games in real life or on TV, and I'm just like, I could compete. Brian, I was at that game that night and I was watching him and I was like, oh, hell no. There's no way I would even want to be on the field with that guy. There's no way I would even know how to try to get in position to tackle him.
No, that's one where just you might as well just put your jock on the ground because he's gonna fake you out of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, no. So what do we got next on the agenda? I think
we're going to talk a little bit about, let me see what time we got going here. We're at 31. We probably hit another break here right now. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about high school. We're going to talk a little bit about college. And then we may tease a little bit of Cowboys. But that really hadn't got cranked up yet. I guess they had their 53-man roster set up, but I haven't even checked on that. I've been really more wrapped up in the college and the high school, and so we're gonna hit a break right here, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
All righty.
The difference is made possible by the following small businesses.
Are you in the market for a new or used car or truck? Then contact Derek Wallets at Sam Pack's 5-Star Ford in Carrollton, Texas today. With Derek's 20-plus years of experience in automobile sales consulting and Sam Pack's 42 years of exceptional service in the DFW community, you will quickly understand what it means to experience the Sam Pack difference. So give Derek and Sam Pack 5-Star Ford a call today at 972-299-0028 or email him at dwallets@sampack.com.
WeatherTech General Contracting. We make your home renovation dreams a reality.
Metroplex Delivery is DFW's premier restaurant delivery service. Metroplex Delivery brings premium restaurant food right to your door. Metroplex Delivery offers uncompromising white glove treatment. Launching in McKinney and Allen. Give Metroplex Delivery a call at 469-505-0844 or online at www.metroplex.delivery. And by
Alan Lester, branch manager and team lead for the One Group, a branch of Town Square Mortgage. With over 22 years in the mortgage lending industry, Allen and Town Square Mortgage have many loan program options available from conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, jumbo, and many investor and self-employed programs. So if you're looking for the best in the business, give Alan a call at 214-681-0234.
If you would like to know how you and your business can sponsor this show or others like it, please contact us at info@thedifferenceradio.com. And now back to the show.
All right, we're back.
Great. All right. Yeah, I was just pulling up some lines for the college games coming up this weekend. Like you said, there's not a ton of great games, but there are a few. And
it's good to get our appetite going. Some of these games that are going to be in college there may be some upsets this week. That'll be fun, especially if it's teams you hate. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, all those numbers of the team, the typical hated teams are pretty big in their favor. I'm looking at the old Wolverines. I'm a Big Ten guy, so I don't particularly like Michigan. They're 30-point favorites. So
yeah,
that wouldn't be the worst thing to see.
Yeah. Well, and as we talked about with Coach Novikov, you got Notre Dame taking on Ohio State. I guess that would be considered an upset. given the fact that Notre Dame's got a new coach. Ohio State is pretty solid, always has been. Ohio State is one of my least favorite teams of all time. I can't explain why, but I just never liked them. I don't even know what a Buckeye is.
Yeah, they're definitely a polarizing team, kind of like the Wolverines, and of course they play each other every year, so it's hard to root for either one of them. But yeah, that's I know the Buckeyes are the stickers they put on the helmets, and I think it has something to do with the tree. But beyond that, I don't know. And I'm a Big Ten guy.
Yeah.
Question for you: do you know what the line is on that one?
I do not.
Take a guess.
21.
Not bad. 17.5.
Okay. I would say it'd probably be if I had to pick it, I would have said 21. I think that Ohio State's probably, I would say 3, but probably 2.5 or 2 touchdowns, a field goal, I guess is about right.
Yeah, that is about right. I'm looking for your boys.
Arkansas, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think it's 6.5.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. Too many games this week.
There's a lot of games that
most of them are trash. As I'm looking at them.
My
Illini are playing the vaunted Indiana Hoosiers, and they're dogs by 1.5. I know that'll get a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. Let me see. What's Arkansas got here? And I've been watching a lot of the interviews. I mean, everybody's picking Arkansas. I don't think anybody's picked against them yet, just because they've got a little bit more stability. It looks like Cincinnati lost 5 players to the draft, 5 or 6 players to the draft last year. Key players, running back, quarterback, a couple of defensive line. They do bring their whole offensive line back, but they got a new offensive line coach. So they've got to get some continuity there. But
you guys got to cover 6.5.
Yep, I think we'll do it.
That? You got it.
I like it. I do.
All right. Well, that helps. I'll take that to the bank in my weekly. It's college football against the spread top 25. So we usually get about 20 games to pick, and there's probably in this one there's probably about 30 people in it. So
okay,
I'll take that one to the bank and call it a win.
I think so. Arkansas's got their whole line back. They're better than ever, bigger than they've been in several years. Quarterback that weighs 235 that can run over you, and we led the SEC in rushing last year, and so we've got all of our running backs except for one back. He graduated. Defensively, I think we're going to be a lot better. And that's kind of crazy to say because we had some really good linebackers last year, but we had a transfer in from Alabama that Saban actually said the other day he would have been a starter for Alabama this year if he hadn't left. And that kid's a Texas boy. So he's going to be starting alongside Bumper Pool, who is a Lovejoy graduate. So some local guys are going to be linebackers for Arkansas tomorrow. So I do. I think we've got a good chance of not only winning, but, controlling the game.
All right. So
next week if we don't, but
let's put that one in the books and let's look at Arkansas season going forward. Tough division to make noise in. That's for sure.
SEC West several years ago, maybe 10, 11, whatever it was, when A&M decided they were going to go to the SEC, and I was still, coaching at Dallas Christian, and there was a lot of A&M, a lot of kids on our team that their parents were A&M graduates, and it was just a big A&M deal, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to come in there and we're going to dominate and we're going to do this and we're going to do that." I said, "No, it's a good thing for A&M. It's going to help A&M. It's going to help A&M getting out from under the shadow of Texas." But here's what's going to happen. And I'm saying this because it happened to Arkansas the year before. I said, you're going to have one of the best seasons you've ever had. You might lose 2 games, and you're going to finish 3rd in the SEC West, not the SEC, in the West. No, that'll never happen. And then you look at what has happened to A&M. It happens. You can have a really, really good year. I mean, the year that I'm talking about, 2011, we got beat by Alabama and by LSU. LSU beat Alabama in the regular season. Both of them end up in the national championship game, and Alabama beats LSU. We lose to it, and then we lost to Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl. So, but they cheated, so they had to forfeit it.
They cheated.
But it was something about. Remember when? What was the quarterback? Was it Price or whatever his name was? I can't remember. But they sold a lot of their rings and a lot of bowl stuff, and they'd kind of been selling signatures and stuff like that, and they got caught. They got busted doing that, which at that time was illegal. Now you get paid to do it. So, right. I mean, it wasn't like they cheated, but the NCAA was kind of hypocritical because they had some other kids that had done that, and they had suspended them. And which, if they would have retroed suspension with the quarterback and the other people, they would have had to forfeit games and wouldn't even have been in the Sugar Bowl. But they did make them forfeit, but Arkansas did not get the win because of the forfeit. So it's like a tie.
Yeah, it's amazing what kind of loopholes there are for bigger programs. The blue blood, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so we got.
Go ahead.
We got South Carolina. We got Missouri State. Missouri State will be an interesting one. So in 2011, Bobby Petrino was the head coach of Arkansas. We'd made it all the way up to, I think, 4th in the nation that year and doing really well. Again, we lost to Alabama and LSU. Well, then there was the motorcycle incident that wasn't necessarily a motorcycle incident. I'm not going to get into all of that, but story has it that it wasn't all as it appeared to be. And Petrino was let go, and Arkansas has not been the same since then until last year. So Bobby Petrino is now at Missouri State. So they're coming to Fayetteville. It'll be interesting how he's treated because a lot of people felt like he betrayed, the program, and loved him because of what he had done in winning. But, it just it's kind of like the girlfriend that cheats on you, right? And so it's what could have been. I think he'll have a rude welcome there. Then it hits hard. We got A&M and Alabama back to back.
Woo!
And A&M will be here in Dallas. We're probably going to try to set up a tailgate out there and hopefully do it as the Real Talk show. Alabama, it'll be a Jerry World. And then Alabama, we do have in Fayetteville. Last year they beat us by 7. And, we hung with them the whole game and just couldn't pull it out in the end. Then we go to Mississippi State. Everybody's saying that could be our trap game. And we follow that with BYU, who's pretty solid. We have Auburn in Auburn, and then we play Liberty. And then we have LSU. I'll be at the LSU game. That'll be in Fayetteville. Ole Miss is in Oxford, and then Missouri will be in Missouri there. So, no, it's not an easy schedule, dude. It's not.
I've got you 10-2.
I would say if we hit 10-2, you're going to see a lot of happy Arkansas fans. And
shit, that is a tough schedule. So I've got you losing to Alabama, and I've got you losing to Auburn at Auburn.
See, that's pretty good because for some reason, we have a tough time beating Auburn, even when they're not as good as they should be. It's just one of those teams. I don't know if they're in our head. I'm kind of like you. I mean, Auburn that is scary for me, but I'm torn between A&M and Alabama. You don't know what – I mean, you know what you think Alabama's going to be. Last year they weren't as tough. They were beatable last year. Not a lot of teams did it. A&M did it, and Georgia did it. But after beating A&M last year, I'm not sure that they don't kind of refocus what they would call putting us back in our place. And I just have a sneaky feeling that at some point we're going to catch Alabama on the right day. I do.
Well, I mean, I'd be happy to swap out the loss to Alabama and put it at, take one by A&M and then beat Alabama. He's talking about some of those schools you'd love to see lose. Hey,
right.
Unless you're a Crimson Tide guy, then with the school, you're probably not rooting for them.
No, and I tell you that the new coach that we have is such a perfect fit for Arkansas. He's just the blue collar guy. Grew up in Oklahoma, was an Arkansas fan. Always wanted to coach there. Was offensive line coach there when Brett Bielema was there as a head coach. That's when we had the largest offensive line in football ever. That's pro, and that was pro and all of it. That year we were.
I think bigger than the NFL too.
Huh?
Average size was bigger than in the NFL lines?
Yes, it was.
Oh,
yes, it was. It was I think we were averaging 330 across the line. We had a guy named Dan Skipper that was 6'11", dude, and he was like 350 but they could move, they were good. And so our head coach is offensive line coach, and so he's been working to get that bigger bulldozer type, run heavy offensive line, athletic, not just big bodies, but just the whole mentality, just the fighter mentality. Even, you could see it over the last 6 or 7 years. If we got down, it was over.
Yeah.
And we got down a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just like, we'll finish the game, but and that's just not the case anymore. And that's what's fun to watch. I mean, you want to win, but you at least want to, if you lose, you want to lose with some pride.
Right.
And, that was the Alabama game. I mean, we fought them right up to the end. We were an onside kick away from possibly being able to tie it up. And, it happens. You win and you lose. And we didn't have enough that night. But I do think your Auburn pick is probably right on. And I hate that. Auburn just irritates me. But we'll see what happens. At 10-2 would be awesome.
Well, I think if 10-2, if you go 10-2, now that Auburn loss that late in the season would hurt you in the polls for sure. But if you can take down either A&M, if they're as good as they're supposed to be, and then obviously Alabama's always up there. If you can take one of those two down and then win the rest of your schedule, then you're talking potential playoffs depending on how the SEC shakes out.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of polls that have us second in the SEC West and going to the Sugar Bowl, which would not be a bad deal for us given the state of where we've been, 2 to 3 years ago. So, you never know, but I do feel if we lose A&M and Alabama, it's going to we've got to win one of those two games for this to be a respectable season, even if we won the rest of them, I think.
Yeah. Well, respectable. It all depends on what your measuring stick is, right? Because I think you can easily lose to those two. You can lose to Auburn too, and still get a decent bowl bid. No, it won't be. You'll probably be playing on New Year's Day, or if not New Year's.
We had Outback Bowl last year. I actually got to go to that down in Tampa. That was one of the coolest football games. I love Tampa Stadium. The outdoor, of course, it was great weather. January the 1st, it was 72 degrees. And but it was the atmosphere was just really cool. But
yeah, and you guys travel pretty well, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
we do. And that goes back kind of what we said on that first show of when you're really, and I know I've got some Arkansas friends that hate me for saying this, but when you're really the only show in the state. I mean, we have Arkansas State, they're D1. They do well. When we were in our down years, they could have probably whipped our tail. But for the most part, Arkansas is, if anybody else tried to play us in the state, Arkansas would kill them. Yeah. So because of that, you recruit well in your state and the state travels well. And the fact that it's so hard to get tickets to Fayetteville, sometimes it's easier to go out of state to watch them than it is to watch them at home. Because everybody's got season tickets, right? And nobody's giving them up.
Yeah. That's like you said, the only game in town. people are going to show up, just like a small town football game, small town basketball game. The whole town shows up. Well, Fayetteville, pretty big place for Central Arkansas. So, what did I want to? Oh, how big is the stadium there?
78,000, I believe.
Right. Sounds good size.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at this.
They've done a lot of remodeling. It's really cool. They've got at one point in time, the end zone jumbotron was the largest jumbotron in football till Jerry had to come in and one up them. And I think there's some better ones now, but it stretched. I think a football field is 52 yards wide, and it was pretty much outside of both. It basically went from edge of field, including the out of bounds, to edge of field. Yeah.
Well, I told you last summer we stopped off there on our way to visit our family up in Chicago as a kind of a quick college visit for my kids. My twins are now 18 or 17 in high school, seniors in high school. So we're in that stage where we're looking at different schools, and man, I was blown away by how pretty that campus is, and certainly that football stadium is pretty badass too. We didn't actually go inside of it, but we were right next to it, and it looks like it was recently remodeled, redone. It's pretty state of the art over there.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. Good setup. Up in the hills, especially in the fall with the seasons changing. Most Texans don't know what that looks like. I know you do. You're from the north, but it's just a good place for football. It really is. I wish that the A&M Arkansas game would go back to home and home. I think that I know there's benefits to playing here in Dallas. It gets a lot of attention, but A&M's got such a good history and good culture at what they do there in College Station, and so does Arkansas. I think that the schools and the fans miss out on seeing that, because you don't see that when you go to Jerry World. You don't see the same type of tailgating, the same the traditions within the stadium. You don't see that.
No, I freaking hate Jerry World for that for football purposes, right? Like, hey, it's a cool stadium. It's really state of the art. It's really cool inside. But as far as atmosphere goes, especially for a college football game, especially a rivalry game, it sucks.
It sucks. I've been to college games there. I've seen Baylor play Tech. I've seen a couple of pro games there. It's just, to me, it's too Hollywood. It's too flashy. And I end up sitting there watching the big screen, and I'm like, I could do this at home.
Right.
And have cheaper beer.
A hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
No, I was sorely disappointed. The first time I was there, it was a Sunday night Bears versus Cowboys game. And I had a bunch of buddies from Chicago come down for the game, and we had a bunch of buddies that I worked with. So we basically had a party bus of 20 people, 10 Bears fans, 10 Cowboys fans.
Nice.
And we got down there early thinking, hey, the tailgate scene's going to be pretty sweet. This is, I don't know, Jerry World was probably 4 or 5 years old at this time. So it was fairly early in its existence. And man, the tailgating scene was lame. I've seen, and college aside, the NFL tailgate scene, I'm used to Soldier Field. Mm-hmm. And Soldier Field has badass tailgates up and down. You pick it, right? You're going to find, and you can stumble upon them. People can, invite you on in, all that stuff. There's designated tailgating areas, unless they've changed it over at Jerry World, but there's designated tailgating areas that you have to pay for. And it's, it becomes it's number one, it's limited. So you don't have, dads and sons throwing the footballs up and down the aisles of cars parked, because it's all consolidated to certain areas, little green spaces that they have there. And it's just not what I was used to. And it certainly takes away from the whole atmosphere of making your day of it, right? Going to an NFL football game, especially the Cowboys, right? You want to make a day of it. You want to make an experience, and it didn't live up to that piece of it. Now the final score, the Bears, from what I recall, kicked the crap out of the Cowboys that given Sunday, right?
Shocking.
Given Sunday.
Shocking.
So that turned out to be good, but. Now, overall, we had a good time. Really cool experience in the stadium. But, yeah, I was sorely disappointed by the tailgating scene there.
Yeah. We tailgated a few years ago at the A&M Arkansas game, and it was we didn't really roam around, like you do on the college campuses. I mean, when you go to Fayetteville, last year we walked in, we went to Missouri game. We walked in, we parked almost downtown. We had about a quarter of a mile walk, I guess, to the stadium. But you're just going through the tailgating area. Then you get down there where basically the university has set up. They got live bands and everything like that. It was just so much fun. And, of course, it was end of November. The weather was amazing. But you just don't have the same vibe at Cowboy Stadium. You don't. Yeah. So,
well, there will be 100,000 people there, so we've got that going for us, which is nice. Right.
Well, and like I said, we're looking into trying to get a tailgate party set up for the A&M Razorback game this year, and hopefully we can do a little something with a show out there and interview some people and get that set up. But I'm going to be outnumbered. I'm going to have to pull on my friends and family back home in Arkansas, the ones that are going to be here to come out, because I'm going to be outnumbered by the A&M fans. But
we can hire some bodyguards for our first ever remote.
Yeah, we may have to. We may have to. So, but I'll be calling the Hogs. Well, Brian, we got about 4 minutes left. Want to share a little bit about what's going on next week. Obviously, we're going to recap some of these big games that we're having this weekend, college-wise. We will recap, hopefully have on another high school coach or maybe some players. We want to remind everybody, we want to get the fans involved as well. As we move forward. Is it next week that Alabama plays Texas?
That is, week 2. Yep.
Okay, so next Tuesday, we're going to be back on our Tuesday schedule. We want to get some trash talking going on between some Alabama and Texas fans. So this is going to be your opportunity. I want to, if you'll reach out to me before the show, we'll try to get you on air. At least you can do is comment through Facebook or YouTube. We'll pop those up. We'll have, some banner about that. But we want to bring some people on the air with us and let them get after it. And,
yeah, because there's no lack of hot sports opinions from the Longhorn Nation. So
no, not at all.
Let's bring it.
Yep. And so obviously, last year Arkansas had Texas and introduced them to the SEC. This year, we'll see what happens. Are they going to be ready for it, or is Alabama going to remind them? So that'll be
my personal opinion is Sark and crew are still a couple of years away from they've had a hell of a recruiting class and all that, but I still think they're at least a year away, if not 2, from really making a deep splash. And what better way to welcome the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide to down to Austin, right?
It'll be an awesome atmosphere. I can't wait to get some people on here and get that noise going, because there's a lot of passion involved, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. And I'm working on a little deal now that maybe we can give out some sports swag. We've got an affiliate sponsor coming on. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Fanatics before, where you can order a lot of your college game day stuff. They're going to be one of our affiliate sponsors for our sports edition part. So you'll be able to go in there and get some discounted stuff. And I may pick up some stuff courtesy of the show to pass out and give out to people. If your team wins, we'll see what happens. I don't know yet. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, we got about a minute left. Brian, I'm going to let you close out the show, and then we'll see everybody. Don't forget, it will be Tuesday at noon. This was we're just getting the show kicked off, still trying to get, our feet wet, trying to get the right people lined up. I want to thank Coach Novikov again for coming on last minute notice. I mean, I reached out to him last night. He got back to me this morning. And, as we continue to go, we're going to obviously have a lot more people. We want to get the Bosco modern day coaches back on and talk about that big national matchup coming on, given nobody loses before then. And but Brian, close us out, and we'll see everybody on Tuesday.
Yeah, and the other thing we have kicking off next week, Lennon, is the NFL. So we're going to have a little bit of NFL talk next week. Most fantasy football drafts, or I should say a lot of them are already done, but, we may have a little fantasy football talk ahead of the NFL kickoff. But, yeah, like Lennon said, we'll wrap up some of the big local matchups, some of the big national matchups on the high school level. We'll talk college football. We'll go through some of those scores as well and some games. And then, yeah, hopefully have some good local and if not national interviews here on the show. So comment, like, all that stuff. We will be back on our regular cadence of Tuesdays, starting Tuesday at noon of next week. So tune in then. Until then, enjoy football this weekend, and we will see y'all next Tuesday. Later, guys.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week again for a fresh round.